We have returned for the second day of questions for the activist Lois Austin, who first gave evidence to the inquiry during phase 1 of tranche 3 back before Christmas. That related to the deployment of the undercover officer Peter Francis. This time she'll be taking questions about the deployment of Carlo Soracchi and her involvement as an organizer in Mayday 2001. Then this afternoon we'll be hearing from Jason Bishop, the undercover police officer who was first interviewed on Monday, originally scheduled just for one day because some time ago, the chair of the inquiry, John Mitting, said that it was an unremarkable deployment. He has clearly changed his mind on that, and Jason Bishop is back for a second day. It should be noted that on Monday, we only got through the first 2 years of his deployment. He was deployed for 7 years, so there's a lot to get through this afternoon. I'm joined with Evelyn Lubbers of the Undercover Research Group. What are you looking forward for us hearing today?
Well, Lois is always she's got a very sharp mind and a lot to say. She is a speaker as an organizer, so she will have a lot to say about Carlo. She feels she hasn't been in a relationship, but as an organizer, she did a lot of work with him, and she has a strong opinion on him. So, and with everything that came out during the last few days with him, like being corrupt with the STS, the now almost famous rent book, where he claimed rent that he never paid. He just bought a rent book at a local shop. I mean,
we apart from the incidents around the town hall, Hackney Town Hall, that's the one. We didn't see a lot of the reports of Carlo Soracchi yet. I imagine that will be different with Lois Austin's questioning.
Yeah, because most of the women he was in a relationship with were not reported on a lot, so that's why we didn't see the reports. And having only half a day, or even that meetings, or people keep saying like at 12 we'll start with Jason Bishop again, seems not enough time again, like 2 hours to go through reports. And then again in the afternoon, if we do the Jason Bishop, we have to not only do the next 5 years of his deployment, but there's also a lot of questions that were not really asked or were not followed up on Monday when he was first heard. The questioning was rather weak, to say it in a friendly way. So there will be if Daisy Monaghan doesn't sort of gets her act together, there will be a lot of Rule 10 questions asked after she's finished by the lawyers who feel that important issues have not been discussed. So like normally we end at 5. The building closes at 7, but I doubt that we're going to get through everything in time.
Yeah, I mean, there was a great deal on Monday that was very frustrating as a watcher. Not just unanswered questions, but unfollowed up questions. I mean, particularly the one that we heard, just for one of the breaks, where there was a question about the use of corporate intelligence, commercial infiltrators into groups, and his knowledge of that, which was asked. He claimed he couldn't hear it. We went to break, we came back, and it was just forgotten.
Yeah, it was just forgotten. And they took it as a fact that there were commercial infiltrators in his groups. The question rather was, what did he know of them? And that is so important. And it's so, there's no doubt there were a lot more commercial agents in the groups that climate change groups, RT, Reclaim the Street, which blocked the city of London. There's lots of companies and lots of money involved in countering that. So no doubt there were more commercial agents that we know of, and even the ones that we know of have not really been discussed here, which I think is a great failure of the inquiry.
Yeah, there also will be part of today will be enclosed. It hasn't been made clear by the inquiry, but I get the impression that will relate to the questioning of Jason Bishop as opposed to Lois Austin.
Yeah.
Though that, like I said, that hasn't been made clear. Hopefully that won't disrupt the day too much. They have to for some reason they say they have to rearrange the hearing room. I mean, we can't go in when it's on. I don't know why they say things like that, but sometimes it does take a while. Hopefully that won't hold things up too much. Yeah, I mean, the remaining 5 years of the deployment of Jason Bishop is Very significant. One of the areas that I think is going to be a problem is that one of the last things he did, basically, essentially, he withdrew, but then he was dragged back in order to cover the G8 in Scotland.
Mhm.
Now, Scotland is outside the England and Wales
Yeah.
jurisdiction of this public inquiry. And though we heard lots about, for example, Carlo Soracchi in Venice, and lots of the holidays the undercover police officers took as part of their deceptive sexual relationships, the inquiry has refrained from asking too many questions about events overseas if it was simply political.
Yeah, Scotland not even overseas.
Mm.
There has been a lot of discussion behind the scenes already. Like Jason was part of the groups that prepared the big protest against GH in Scotland. Most of the preparations took place in London. His briefing of what happened in Scotland took place in London, and yet the inquiry takes the stand that it was abroad. So, and Scotland is not within the remit, so we're not going to go there. And of course, if meetings took place here and he went to Scotland with people from London, where do you draw the line? It's like it sounds a bit anal to say what.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous, quite frankly. This is going to come when we get to the G8, because there was obviously a great number of officers who were involved in infiltrating the dissent network, bringing protests to the G8 summit in Gleneagles in Scotland in 2005. This is going to come up again and again.
Yes, yeah, of course. Yeah, with the MPIOU, the next unit that was also involved in the G8. Like it also sort of. It keeps us from looking from overlap between the work of the STS and the next more national unit and how they work together. Did they know each other? How were they briefed? How were they tasked? We won't get to know that. And it's like, yeah, like you say, it's so weird that we were in Venice yesterday with Lindsay and Carlo. We saw pictures of them strolling around in Venice. Carlo Soracchi claimed he had to go to a meeting of activists in Italy. Nothing of that happened.
But what's weird is if it had, then the inquiry wouldn't have asked questions about it, which insane.
Yeah, and also, like yes, he has paid for that holiday. There was, his handler was there, so extra costs even, and it really makes you think, like, and they claim they didn't know about the relationships. It's like it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a farce. Very frustrating. I get the feeling that what the inquiry is doing is choosing the path of least amount of work possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that they feel very overworked. I would always remind people the reason why it's so much work to do this for the inquiry is because of the redaction process, because of the supposed national security issues.
Yeah, but also because people, activists have chosen not to be. They don't want their name mentioned in documents. So there's a lot of redaction work to do. There is,
but there's a great. I would say, just to push back on that slightly, that the vast majority of the redaction work that takes place isn't because of activists' concern. In fact, we've seen, lots of activists who didn't know they were being mentioned in open hearings without any warning whatsoever. The vast majority of stuff that's redacted is by the police, by the state, for the protection of the state, and protection from embarrassment from the state, because we have seen examples of documents that have been released through other means, through civil cases, unredacted, and then we see the redacted versions, and the stuff that's actually been redacted is just stuff about embarrassment for the police.
Yeah. It's like the entire unit, the entire STS was just, used to prevent embarrassment for the police, as we've seen in many cases. Now again, like there's a lot not disclosed, or there's a lot censored. And like you say, if you find out what it is about embarrassment for the police. But that's why the last few days were so fantastic, that Carlo Soracchi was sort of unmasked, like as not only having as many relationships as he could and as much sex as he wanted to, but also like having the SES paying for his holidays, lying about them. It was all accepted, so it was like a part. And then the thing about the rent book where he just cashed in rent that he never paid. It's complete corruption. So it's very good at this kind of, it's not just relationships, it's the entire corrupt grooming gang that made as much money as they could. And that, you know, that comes to light now, and that is going to be very interesting next week.
We're going to go in fairly soon. The broadcast by the inquiry will start at 10:10, as it always does. There's always a delay. Actually, it might be more like 12 minutes past, 13 minutes past. That things don't necessarily start on time. I'll be doing these videos as ever during the breaks, during the lunch break. Please tune in. Please share these if you're able to. Please like them, all that stuff. I'm very cringe asking, but it does make a big difference to how visible this reporting is. If you're able to help in any way, that would be really fantastic. Anything else you'd like to add before we go in?
No, let's talk later.
Yep. Thanks for joining us. See you all during the lunch break. Bye for now.